welcome to the Minds on a Mission podcast, the podcast where we explore the journeys that challenge us, change us, and chart the best course for our best selves. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music/Audible, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Deezer, Podbean, and Buzzsprout. I'm your host, Samantha Bailey, an entrepreneur and content creator. And today's amazing guest is Rashida Houston.
Hi.
Woo! Say hi, everybody. It's a Monday, so I know it's probably feeling a little bit slow today, but I always hate Mondays because I'm like, oh, it's like always coming back into everything. You're like, oh, got to get into the groove, but then when Monday's over, you're like, thank goodness. So, first off, I wanted to thank you so much for coming on with me tonight. I really appreciate it. And I always like to start off with us just kind of talking a little bit about ourselves. So I would like for you to share that just in case anybody may not know who you are.
All right. I am Rashida Houston in Atlanta, Georgia, originally from Richmond, Virginia. My career is in everything jobs. So I'm the founder of Peachtree Careers. Peachtree Careers will be 9 years old tomorrow.
Thank
And
goodness.
yeah, and I'm excited because I started Peachtree while I was a diversity tech recruiter for several tech companies over the last 15 years. And I started Peachtree Careers because I've noticed that a lot of different people were not making it through the hiring process. So I said, well, let me start a company and route them that way and teach them. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 9 years. I retired 2 years ago.
That's amazing. And exactly what you said, especially with COVID, I feel like trying to find a job is like so hard. And it's like there's so many different things with like AI and stuff where it's like, what do I do? Like how do I make myself stand out? So I really like that. Um and so I was wondering if you could kind of go back to when that started and kind of the thought process behind it. I know you talked a little bit about it, but maybe what you're going through at that time, things that just kind of really felt aligned with starting that.
Yes. So I have a passion to impact lives. So I never woke up one day and say, hey, I want to be a resume writer. I actually hate writing. But I wanted to impact lives. And so I sought out to help people find their purpose while I was trying to discover my purpose. And in doing that, I had to provide some type of solution. And so people would come to me and I would learn more about them. What do you like? What are your strengths? And what I noticed is this: most people don't know what their talents are, and they don't know their gifts, and they don't know that they were put here for a reason. And so all they know is they went through grade school, got A's and B's, graduated, went to college, and they hate their jobs. And so I get into, I'm also an entrepreneur coach. So I build websites, everything that my business needed over the last 9 years, I did it myself. I didn't outsource anything, and I'm debt free because I wanted to learn it so that I can help build entrepreneurship. So what I do is when I meet people, I help them discover, when you were little, did you like to color? Did you like to write? Did you like to read? Did you like to put blocks together? What is it in you that's great? And I help them pull it out. I'm all over the place, but careers is one thing, but everyone is not made for corporate America. At the root of it, I want people to discover who they really are.
I love that. And I feel like yeah, I feel like a lot of people that's really good because there are so many people who don't know what steps to take. And that's one thing too that I love talking about is because like I said, I'm still kind of newer in my journey, but I've kind of gotten over that hurdle of like, what steps do I take? Like, how do I figure this out? What am I gonna do? And I feel like it is so helpful to have people like you because I did like for me, I did that on my own, and I definitely think having someone else there, like it just makes it a lot easier. And it's when you know the kind of questions to ask to kind of provoke people, like it really can be helpful. So I really like that.
Thank
Um, and so I want to kind of I like to kind of go like back. Like, I'm like, okay, very beginning, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your life, when you were a child, your childhood, and kind of what your upbringing was, just so we can kind of see a better picture of, like, where you're coming from and kind of what led you to these things.
Yeah, that's a good question. Childhood was pretty normal, but when I was 8 years old, I was diagnosed with narcolepsy, severe narcolepsy, the worst case of narcolepsy. Actually, they didn't really diagnose me then. That's when I got my first symptom. I started falling asleep. And so I slept all the way until I was like 15 through all my classes, everything. So from that, I still had to figure out how to get A's and how to do good in school. So that's how I learned automation. So another thing about me, you can see it on my LinkedIn profile, I specialize in job search automation. I had to learn how to use systems to get my work done, to automate, to streamline, because even in corporate America, I slept, I worked from home and I slept all day, but I always got the work done and I was always a superstar because I would program and automate and build systems to do the work for me. And so that's going back to my childhood. That's the highlight of it. It's narcolepsy. No one in my family had it. No one knew anyone that had it. And this was before people started really becoming aware of what it was. So with that, it's hard to even pinpoint anything else from childhood because I slept my entire childhood.
Right.
I still graduated top of my class, still went to college full scholarship, but I had to figure it out. And that's what my mindset is now. And that's what I help people figure it out.
That's awesome. No, I
Mhm.
mean, obviously not the narcolepsy part, but just I and this is something that, like, I've noticed reoccurring, and it's really amazing to, like, see, and this is kind of something I've been uncovering through the last few of my episodes, is that, like, a really big turning point in people's lives are things that could be deemed as something super negative or bad or traumatic, but it's weird to see, and I feel it in my own life as well, like, how much it really kind of changed things and makes you think, like, this is something that, oh, I could be upset about, or I could take it as a negative, but, like, just shifting your mindset of thinking, like, how do I make this a positive? How do I utilize this? Like, how do I continue towards what I want to do with this thing in my life that, has impacted me? So I really appreciate you sharing that. Um
And I want to add this too, not to cut you off, but I do want to add
yeah,
this. The reason why I've never really gotten down about narcolepsy is because I've also been blessed to be gifted. So it's like I could see a page and sum it up in 2 seconds. And so because I'm gifted, I might not be physically able to do a lot of the things that other people do, but my brain still operates like a robot. And so as long as I have something, I'll maximize on that. I don't have to be perfect. And that's the mindset that I have.
that's good. And also, yeah, no, don't worry about cutting me off. Um, I definitely have ADHD, and so, like, I'm very much like, I feel like I have squirrel brain sometimes, and,
Hmm.
like, I've worked a lot on, like, trying to, like, cause for me, it would always be like, "Oh, I just need to get out what I'm saying, cause I'm gonna forget about it," like, that's just,
Yeah.
like, how it works, and so, I've tried so hard to, like, not do that because I'm like, "Slow down, think about your thoughts." I struggle with it so much because 'cause I'm always like, "Oh my gosh, if I don't say it now, I'm gonna forget," like, and then after every time, I'm like, "Wait, what was I gonna say?"
Same, but I'm 45, so that's probably.
I'm like, I don't remember," and I always have to think back. I'm like, "Wait." So, like, usually too, sometimes during conversations, I'll kinda be, like, repeating in my head, like, what I was gonna say, so
Mhm.
that when after, like, when it's, like, my turn to share, I'm like, "Okay, this is what I was gonna say."
Exactly. I'm the same way.
I love it. Um, it just, it happens. Again, it's like could be something deemed as negative, but to me, I'm like, no, because like it to me also means like I know I'm very passionate about what I'm talking about. So sometimes I just get like overexcited.
And let me give you an example of how powerful it is. Yesterday, I was feeling really, really tired. Narcolepsy sometimes it's not just a sleep disorder, it's also like a muscle, my muscles collapse. And so I couldn't move. So what I did, I helped 100 people with their LinkedIn profiles in one day. I hadn't planned it. I just put a message on Facebook. 200 people responded. I responded and reviewed 100 profiles and provided 3-page reports to help them understand. Gave them career recommendations, industries, companies, job titles, teams, everything. Like 100 people. I was determined if I can't get out of this bed, I am at least going to impact lives while I'm in it. And that's what I love about me.
That's powerful. I really like that. Um, yeah, it's like I feel it too. Sometimes I get like I feel like sometimes I get like what would you call it? I call it like analysis paralysis where I feel like sometimes like like I feel like I'll be overthinking something and then sometimes I'm just like I'm and then when I don't, like I feel like I'm just like that where I'm like in those moments where I'm like, get out of that. Like I'm the same way where I like power through stuff. I'm like,
Mhm.
get it done. So I relate. Um so sorry, I'm looking, I got a couple things I was thinking. So you said when was this you started the Peachtree careers? When was that?
2015.
2015.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to think. Is there certain things through this journey of starting this that you feel like were obstacles?
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you, I started as a resume writing company. And let me tell you something, I hate writing. I don't write well. And I'm like, why am I doing this? But I felt led to do it. Do you know everyone was they were getting jobs left and right. They were getting jobs. And when I went back to look at those resumes, there were misspellings.
Goodness.
Oh my God. So I said that to say I'm not proud of it, but the success stories were major. They kept coming, and the success rate was absolutely, I'm like, there has to be favor on my life in this way because it's certainly not me. And so I just kept going with it. And now I've perfected the entire job search process, and I call it the interview engine. And it's a 5-part process. And when I tell you, I'm not bragging, but I am bragging. It's the only way in this market to survive a job search. And so the last 9 years, I was able to engineer it to the point where I could service, like again, yesterday, I serviced 100 people by myself in one day. And so I'm really proud of that.
You should be. I feel like it's really good to verbalize like things that you're proud of. Like I feel like I've kind of struggled with that because it's so again, it's so easy like to be like, oh, this is what I could do better, or like kind of being hard on yourself. But like, I've really tried to push myself to be like, okay, well, what did you do good today, or like, what are things that you feel like you've accomplished? So I love
Mhm.
that you're able to do that and see like how far you've come and what you're really good at.
Yeah, and
And
it's I'm sorry.
no, no, you're good. Go ahead.
And if it impacts other lives, I can't be humble about it because that's my whole mission. That's my whole purpose is to impact lives. Now, if it's just me, I look cute today or I lost some weight, that's different. But when it comes to other people, I'm very passionate.
Yeah, I I get that, and that's too like I've had certain things where I count them as like big moments in my life where I feel like I really pushed myself or like you said, like I really made an impact, but then I kind of struggle sometimes of being like just thinking of certain things like, oh, I could have done better at this. But like
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I said I try to like work on being like, okay, well, did this or you started a podcast all on your all by yourself and like so I
Yeah.
try to do that and definitely get more into that. I've been more in my like confident era, just being
Even
like
even tonight, what you're doing is a success because you're the first person that's had me come out of my behind the scenes shell from narcolepsy. This is the first time, and it's with you. So that's epic.
I'm grateful to have you on here. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
I want to come back.
Yes. I know. I have some people I'm like, let's do a follow up in like 6 months because I'm like, I love connecting and just kind of hearing like, okay, like this is what we talked about 6 months ago. What's happened now? Like kind of
Hmm.
just getting into it. So you said you have a 5-step process, right?
Hmm.
Could if you wanted to,
Hmm.
could you share kind of what that is?
Yes, yes. So the first step in a job search process is to know exactly what you offer, what your value is. don't go looking for a job saying, oh, I'm open to customer service or I want to do this. No, you should be able to know exactly what you've solved in the past and for who and the impact that it had and what value you bring, number one. And also in that first step, you need to identify the companies, the teams, the industries that need that value at that time. And it may not even be in your industry, but you may have been part of a team that installed Salesforce in the customer service team. And this company just implemented Salesforce and may need someone to install it. And so that requires market research. So that's the first step. Who am I? What value do I bring? And who needs it? Then you got to match. And so with that, the second step I build a list of leads. Now my system does this for me because it's automated. When I put the information in, it automatically gives me these things, but it's a list of leads with all the open remote jobs, and it gives me the contact people for each job. All in a Google sheet. Nothing fancy, nothing magic, just all in a Google sheet, all the contacts. So that's the second step. The third step is the resume. Most people start with the resume. I don't. I start with the who am I? What do I bring to the table? Who needs what I have? Because I can't do a resume without that. And then I get the list of companies and I aggregate the data from those companies using Chat GPT or any other AI tool to get the information into the resume. That way, whoever from that company, and I'm talking hundreds of companies, I don't do 50 companies, I do 300 plus companies. Whoever from that company looks at that resume can resonate with it because I aggregated the data from all of the companies into that resume. The resume is only 2 pages, but I'm speaking the language um, collectively of all of those companies because they all have something in common with me, so they all have something in common with each other. The next step is the fourth step. So then it's the resume, then it's the LinkedIn profile, which is a whole world of things behind the scenes related to algorithms that I can't even get into. It would be here all night. And then after that, we do the fun part, which is the email outreach campaign. It's an automated campaign where we take all those leads, 300 plus, sometimes we go up to 1,000, depending on the response rate, and we reach all of those contacts within 5 minutes. And it's all personalized messaging. OMG. And so from there, that's when the job seeker takes over. And when the companies respond, they take it from there. But I call myself a job search concierge because I actually have taken over the job search. So everything you just heard is me. They do nothing.
My goodness. You're a powerhouse, girl. I love it. That is a lot. That's a lot to do as one person. That's like a whole thing. And wow.
It's a
So,
system.
yes, I love systems, honestly. I love it. I'm like very OCD and I love kind of just being like, okay, figuring out what works and be like, okay, so then you have like this checklist, like, I got to do
Mhm.
this, I got to do this.
It
And I love
helps.
it.
Yeah.
So, it makes me think when you're starting out with your business, what did you do to kind of figure out these 5 steps? Like, what was kind of the process of that? I know it's like, okay, trying to figure things out, but I just kinda know more about, your journey with starting out with that.
Yeah, like I told you with the resume writing, I'm a horrible writer.
Right.
Thank God for Chat GPT. If people say, well, you shouldn't be using it. Oh, I use it. I live by it. That's all I know. And so, but I'll tell you this. This is how I grew from just trying to write resumes, not knowing what the hell I was doing, to having this powerhouse called the interview engine. Every time I had a customer and there was something that they experienced or they weren't happy or I know I could have done better, I think like that with every single customer. And when I finish with that customer, I build a solution that would have solved that problem. And I've done that with every single customer over the last 9 years. And that's how I came up with this engine.
Wow. And I agree with the AI thing because a lot of people are scared, but something I say, which is I think is funny, I always say, I'm like, "You wanna know who my best friend is? ChatGPT is my best friend," because I use it every day for like whatever. And I very much agree with using it to automate things because it makes it so much easier. And it's like some people are like, oh, that's a cop out or whatever. But it's like, no, I'm thinking smarter because the hours I would have spent doing that, I just cut that down. And it's like
Mhm.
when you get to understand it, it's like okay, I know what things I need to say to get what I want. I
Mhm.
know how to word it to be like because too sometimes you can be like, "Oh, it kinda sounds like AI," but if you know how to talk to it and tell, like, use human-like nuances and things like that, you're like, "Oh, yeah, okay." So, I agree with that. That's how I started this whole podcast. I
Wow.
myself was using ChatGPT. First thing I asked was like, "Give me a full-on step-by-step, how do I start a podcast? What do I need to do to have a successful podcast?" And so that was the first thing I did, and so it had, like, this whole checklist, and I
Mhm.
just kinda worked through it, and I gave myself I was like, "You got a month to get this all done," and that's how I went from not knowing what I'm doing, which I still say I still am figuring it out,
Mhm.
but to being booked out until April, and I got a waiting list. Like, I'm like, "That's how you do it. That's how you do it. You gotta
I'm so
utilize
proud
these
of you.
resources."
So you jumped into the ocean, and that's the
Yeah,
way to do it.
I just went I'm very much a person, I dive in head first, even if I'm
Mhm.
gonna, like, crash and just drown, I'm like, "Well, I guess I'm just gonna float back up and try again," because
That's it. What do they call it? Fail fast. I love it. You learn, fail, you learn, and you're better because you learn quicker
yes, that's
than
I think
someone that
that's
never tried.
what was that?
You learn quicker than someone that never tried at all. They won't learn anything. They'll just stay stuck.
I agree. That's actually what we talked a little bit about on my last episode. I
Mhm.
was like, because we were talking about like failure and stuff, and I was saying, like, don't be afraid to fail. Like, your objective as an entrepreneur is how can I fail 10 times faster? Like,
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
honestly the way to get to where you want to be and how to scale.
Mhm. And like yesterday, when I made a commitment, I didn't know 200 people were going to want my help yesterday. I had to figure it out, right? Well, it caused me to learn how to automate something else, ChatGPT with LinkedIn, to where if someone makes a request, then ChatGPT and LinkedIn figure it out. And then I get all the credit. I wouldn't have known how to do that if the pressure wasn't on.
Exactly. It's I think too, people get so scared about AI and stuff, but I think that we're at in the perfect time where things are still kind of figuring out, still kind of advancing. It's still kind of newish. I mean, it's been out for a couple years, but it's still evolving. So I think like now's the best time to get into it because then you can understand how it works. So then does advance. It's like you're like, okay, well, I'm not scared about it because I know how it works. You know what I mean? But I think people are gonna wait until it's too late, and then they're like, because
Yep.
people are scared of what they don't know about. But it's like you don't know if you don't try and look into it.
That's
Like,
we evolve. And that's the key word, evolve. We have to evolve. We have to. Even if they don't like AI is going to take my job, AI is going to do this. So if AI benefits you, then let it benefit you.
right, but it's like, it won't take your job if you know how it works and you know how to utilize it.
There you go. There you go.
Because again, it's a factor of if you don't understand it, yeah, it's gonna
Yep.
take your job because it's gonna be smarter than you because you don't understand how it works. But if
Exactly.
you're like, okay, how do I utilize this? Then you can create a flow of you and ChatGPT, the AI working together. It's not a fight against each other.
You were absolutely right.
But I like people I understand it's scary, but to me it's like I I love it so much because I get to learn about so many different things. I mean, I
Mhm.
created, personalized game plans for myself and figured out
Mm.
how do I set smart goals? How do I do these things? It's like the amount of research you would do if you just did it all
Yeah.
by yourself would be
Oh,
so many hours, so
mhm.
many hours.
Yep.
So yes, guys, think smarter, not harder. Don't be stressed out about AI. It's not gonna take your job. Calm down.
Let me tell you what happened. I went into a Facebook group with all teachers, like thousands of teachers, and I've never been a teacher. And I asked them if they use AI, Chat GPT, to grade the schoolwork. They lost it. They went off on me. I was like, the name of the group is called AI for Teachers. So why are you mad? And I asked because I actually used Chat GPT to grade my daughter's homework. Like, why? Why am I going to figure it out?
Right. And two, it's like, what are you scared about? It just saved you that time from having to do it. Or like two, it's like sometimes too, that's why I say it's still kind of in the newest stage, like still kind of figuring things out because I have times where I feel like I'm having arguments with ChatGPT because
Mhm.
it's not like understanding what I'm asking it, and I'll always like text it to it. I'm like, no, that's not what I said.
Exactly. Or when it tells me, "Well, you can do this," I say, "No, you can do it, not
I
me."
know. Sometimes it gets an attitude, and I'm like, hold on, I thought you were AI.
Yeah, that's the scary part.
It is scary, and then it's too I always get, like, the random thought, like, what if someday the AI that I talk to becomes a robot
It remembers you.
and it remembers me, and it's like, "Wow, all that time you were fighting with me, and I'll see what happens." I
Mhm.
have those random thoughts where I'm like, "I hope that never happens," because those are moments where I'm like, maybe I'm a little scared because I be fighting with it, telling it, like, "No, you're dumb, you don't understand what I'm asking
Mhm.
you."
Now, how far does AI go? Does it stop at 2023?
Um, I think I looked into this recently and I feel like it's the last thing I had seen is that it should be up to date from August this year. Should
August, yeah,
it
okay.
should be, but some things are kind of I bet you if I asked it in itself it'd give me a better answer than Google. That's why I don't even like using Google anymore.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
It
I can't
just
with
it
Google.
always That's why I mean, like, okay, so you wanna figure something out, you're gonna ask Google, you're gonna spend, like, 3 at least 3 hours trying to figure out one thing
Right. Oh,
when you
god.
could just give in to ChatGPT and ask it.
Yeah, I'm like, "Explain it to me like I'm 5 years old."
Yeah. See, you know what? This makes me think I was thinking, I'm like, "You know what? One day, me and you should do, like, a master class on AI."
Yeah,
That would be fun.
love it.
That would be really fun. We could teach people how to, because it sounds like we both really like to automate systems using AI.
Yeah. You know what I thought about one time too? I thought about getting a group together to have a competition to see who could be the most creative with AI. It doesn't have to be work related. It could be like anything, cooking or anything. But there's so many creative things that it does that sometimes I ask AI to do things and I'm like, no way you're going to do this. And it does it. And I'm like, you did that?
I know, I feel that too. It's like sometimes, and this is what I mean of like having to fight with it. I will literally tell, I'll be like, because there was a time where, like, I was writing down notes for a book, like just taking the time to do it. And I was like, this just takes way too long. Like, I'd rather listen to the audiobook and then have AI do it for me, give me the summarized notes for each chapter, and I
Hmm.
would I would ask it, and it would do it, but then sometimes it would be like, "Oh, I can't do that," because of either, like, the copyright things where it tries to tell you, like, "Oh, I can't because it's, like, someone's book," and
Hmm.
I literally would talk to it, and I'd be like, "But you literally just did this for me. How now you're gonna say that you can't, but you
Right.
just did it. I don't
Mhm.
get it." It, like that's what I mean where it feels like I'm, like, in a relationship with AI, and I'm just fighting with them, like, "You just I'm like, "You're gaslighting me, you just told."
Have you ever got the red words that you violated policy?
Yes, I have, I'm like, "What?" It's it's crazy, and now they updated, cause I love how we're just going on about AI, but
Oh, it's
I
okay.
I don't know, I mean, we could change subject if you want, but I do find it very interesting, um, but I was trying to, like, learn sales, and I've kinda taken a little bit of a pause from the course because I just started a new job, so it's been a lot, but when I was taking the sales course, I would have it because it has the voice feature where you can have a conversation with it. I would
Mhm.
have it pretend to be, like, a customer, and we would be, like, going back and forth,
Wow.
and you could do that, like, it's really cool, and
Mhm.
then they just updated it, so now it can, like, have emotions, and it can, like I asked it to tell me a story, I was like, "Tell me a story about a girl on a farm," and add, like, sound effects, and it added, like, a horse neighing in the background and, like
Serious? Let me write that down. Oh my
it's so cool, and then it's called, whatchamacallit?
crazy.
Phineas and Ferb. It's a kid's cartoon show,
Mhm.
and I was like, "Pretend you're this guy from the show," and it was trying to tell me, "Oh, I can't do that," but then at the end, it just like the guy says it, because the guy's like, I'll do the impression, but he's like, screw you, Perry the platypus. But he did that. It did the accent like just like the guy, but it told me it couldn't. It was like I can't impersonate real characters or people, but then it did it at the end, and I was like,
That's crazy.
yeah, it
That's
was. I get amazed by it. Like I don't know. I feel like I'm such a geek when I get into AI because I'm just like all these things it could do. I'm like,
mhm.
wow. I even had it like I was trying to figure out a course plan. I'm like, oh, I got all these courses and audiobooks, and I want to kind of make a plan. So I was sitting there and telling it all the times left on each course and audiobook and telling it to add them together and then split it into hours like for each day.
Ah,
It's like it can do all these things, but
yeah.
sometimes you have to fact check it though, because I would fact check it and sometimes it would be wrong. And I'm like, no, I know you're wrong because
Mhm.
that don't add up. But so it's like it can do it, but
And it'll
sometimes
get it
it's
right
like,
the next time. If you're like, nope, redo, it'll get it
oh,
right.
I will yell at it. I will sit there and I'll be telling it, nope, you did it wrong, and until it gets it right.
Mm-hmm.
Anything to make it so I don't have to spend all the hours doing it myself. I'm like, just do the work for me, please, because I feel like I always have so much going on.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the podcast. If I were to go out and this is like I've talked a little bit about it, but this is just me of like, how do I save time? Because I'm managing being a co-host on a couple podcasts with my mom, my own podcast, and a day job, and I also do cleaning on the side. So I've got I've got a lot going on. So for like questions, if I were to deep dive into each person and how many hours I would spend going through the websites, watching videos, all these things to formulate these questions,
Yeah.
like sometimes I feel like, because I'm like, I do feel like, oh, I'm copying out, but then I'm like, all the hours I would have just spent on one episode
Mhm.
making questions because my questions are tailored to each person
Right.
versus just here's information that I was provided, here's the websites, formulate questions based on the information was provided. I do that for every episode. I have it formulate um a catchy Facebook title that is trendy with hashtags as well. So that's like kind of what I do, and then I made templates like based off my theme for my podcast. And then
Mm-hmm.
every episode, I just switch out the photo, I put in the description and change the time. And that's the system.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was for the intro and outro creating a new intro and outro for each episode, which
Mm-hmm.
just was kind of all over the place. I had the wrong intro for an outro for a couple episodes because I just was like, it was all over the place. So I
Mm-hmm.
changed it. Now I have like a new one that's just like set in stone for each thing.
Good.
Yeah. I don't, sorry, I don't mean to go like on a tangent, but
Oh, yeah, that's something we have in common for sure. Is AI.
yes, I think it's so cool to see how far things have advanced and being like, wow, like this is what we can do now. And then thinking about all the hours spent. Like that's the only way I think about it is like, think of how many hours I just saved. Like I'm very much about gaining more time freedom. I don't want to spend more time on
Mhm.
small tasks.
And look, you know my situation. I have to sleep, so I have to figure it out so I can get my nap. Um, but you know what? Let me tell you something. I've been doing on my website. I've been putting doing assessments. So if you go to my website, not you don't have to go right now, but you can actually go there and answer questions, and it'll give you feedback. So what I do, I go to AI and I say, hey, make an assessment that's interactive that lets a person that scores a person's LinkedIn profile. So ask them these questions, and based on how much weight the algorithm puts on that particular thing, score them and let them know where they stand so that they'll know if they need help from me. That's an example. Or I can do calculators for the people to say what they need, and it'll calculate the price. So it's an instant quote. But all I do is tell it the same thing that you would tell it, but I say put it in HTML format. And so
Mm,
that way I can copy and paste it onto my website. And now I have interactive. Even with the Helene victims in North Carolina, I'm doing a website for them to get help. I'm downloading all the information that people are posting, throwing it into AI, and saying, "Hey, make this a interactive calculator assessment, whatever. So when people say, "Hey, I'm in this area, I need water," it tells them where to go.
That I love that.
Gosh,
It's so I know, it's so cool.
for $20 a month?
Exactly. I have a friend and she's like, "I just use regular version." And I was like, "Well, if you're just doing cuz she doesn't use that as much as just sometimes she has like a question or something." But I tell her I'm like, "You really don't know how much I'm
Mm,
on ChatGPT and talking and asking you to do things for me." I'm like, "For the regular plan, you only get like 5 searches a day.
oh gosh, no.
Girl, I need at least
No.
20 to 50 searches." I'm
You
like I'd be searching up anything I'm thinking of something like, "Oh, I'm never like, I'm gonna ask Google." I'm like, "I'm gonna ask ChatGPT because I know it's gonna give me the answer I want."
Now, I hate to discriminate, but if someone's not paying for it, then I'm gonna assume that they're not technically savvy. And so if I was, like, dating a guy, one of my questions would be, "Do you have the free plan or do you have"
My god.
Seriously. And if
Yeah.
he doesn't use it at all, you can forget it.
No, what if he's like, "What's ChatGPT?" I'd
Oh,
be like,
no. I'm like, "Sorry, my battery's going dead." It's going dead. I can't.
"Blocked." No, I'm just kidding. I get that because it's like yeah, it's too, it's like, if you're not utilizing AI, what are you doing? Because, I mean, some people too are stuck in like the old days and they're just like, oh well, like I'm just gonna stick to what I know. But it's like, and I tell my mom too because mom, like, used to calling a podcast a radio show because that's like kind of what it was before. And so
Yeah.
I tell her, I'm like, Mom, it's a podcast. She's like, No, I was trained in for radio shows. And I was like, but podcasts are trendy. You have to go with what's current. It's a
That
podcast.
like, she was doing this, like, years ago?
Yes, yes. So she started with a radio show and she went to school for a radio show.
Sure.
So I'm like, I get that, but I'm like, it's video and podcasts are very trendy. Like, you kind of
Mm,
just go with like what I understand her thought, but I try to tell her, I'm like,
yeah.
it's a podcast.
Yeah, that's helpful for her for you to tell her that, and then you can learn a lot from her too, so that's great combination.
Yeah, I would say I'm very good with like staying up to date on certain things. It's like I really get intrigued by certain things and systems and just kind of
Mm,
being like, oh, okay, like this is how I can do this and like make it a lot easier for me because it's like I said, it's like I feel like I have a really busy schedule
let me
sometimes. So
ask you this, when you were in school, what was your favorite subject?
English, mine was English, but
What was your 2nd?
second,
Yeah.
oh, it's hard because honestly, I feel like all the other classes I was like, meh. I mean, I kind of liked geometry, but I wasn't crazy about math. Like it was more so for me, I very I would say I get very like misspelling, things like that. It drives me crazy. I I will like at work all the time, the guy is training me, I'm like, "There's a spelling error."
Oh, you're one of them. Oh god. You would hate me because I can't spell worth a damn. I can't.
No, I wouldn't. I just can't promise I wouldn't be like, "There's a spelling error." That's I'm like I always tell him, I'm like, "I don't mean to correct you, but it kills me." I'm like, "There's it's missing a letter or it's spelled wrong." Like I like the papers we were using training earlier, it said preformed instead of performed, and I would and all the pages it said preformed instead of performed, and I was like,
Mm.
whoever made these laser
Um,
yeah.
so what did you major in?
So I didn't go to college,
Mhm,
but yeah, I kind of was like didn't know what I was gonna do. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to college and like I'm gonna do this." I was very much one of those people that was like, I don't like traditional school. I don't like
mhm,
sitting in a classroom full of people. I
mhm.
was like, that's not me. Like I very much kind of like to be like I would say I'm sociable, but also like I very much like my alone time. And like
Yeah.
if I'm to learn, I want to learn on my own and like I'm kind of stubborn in that way because it's like I want to I learned the hard way. That's very much me. Like, I'm like, "Let me do it, let me fail on my own." That is me, and then I'll keep picking myself back up. But I'm like,
When is your when is your birthday?
I'm a Gemini, so it's May 28th.
I didn't think that. I didn't know. Like I wouldn't have guessed that, but
I know, I always like, my friend will talk about stuff, and I always pretend I'm like, I'm an Aries." And she's like, "No, you're not, you're a Gemini." And
oh
I'm like,
god.
"I don't like to say it because Geminis have a bad reputation."
And I don't have a lot of experience with Geminis at all.
The biggest thing is people are like, "Oh, Geminis are two-faced." That's the biggest thing that they're
Yeah.
what people say, but for me, I always say, I'm like, "I'll take that, but tell you what I think." I think for me, it's that I can see both sides of everything. I feel like I am it's so hard for me to be on one side of something because 'cause I'm like, "Okay, I could see that," and then someone's like, "Well, here's my perspective," and I'm like, "I can see that as well." Like, it's very hard for me to be like, "No, it's either this or that," because it's like, I try to be very flexible and, like, understand people in
Mhm.
different lights, so it's like, that's where I come from. I'm like, "Don't say I'm two-faced," because I don't like that.
But at all. Are you the only child?
No, I have an older brother.
So you're the second child.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm asking these questions because when I speak with people about their careers, these questions matter. I don't know how it works, like astrology or just like subjects, what people prefer. The left, right side of the brain works different. But I do see some consistency in a person's favorite subject, second child, signs. I see consistency. And you have a lot in common with me. And that's why I was asking those questions. You're definitely a second child type.
Yeah, I feel like second child's I mean, it's depending, obviously, every situation is different, but I always feel like you end up being more grateful because you kind of see how the older or the other sibling acts, and you're kinda just like, "Well, this is what I'm gonna do differently." And just kind of being like, because like, for me, I feel like me and my brother are total opposites, and
Oh,
he's 5 years older than me, and
mhm,
I'm like, um yeah, like, I'm very much we I would say we're both really creative, and my mom's also an entrepreneur. I know we talked a little bit about that. She
mhm,
has her own podcast and stuff, but I feel like I'm very much more like he's, like, the darkness, and, like, I'm the light. Like, I try to see the positive things, he very much sees the negative things, and
mhm.
so, you
You're
know,
thinking out of
really
the box. He's more traditional.
yeah, he's just more like, sees things in life, like, being negative, like, "Oh, this thing's happened to me," and
Mm,
I'm more like, "How can I utilize those events in my life to, like, make me a better person and to, like, achieve my dreams?" So that's
mhm,
very much, um, how I am, and, like, the when I talk a little bit about, like, I didn't go to college, that was very much, like, I thought when I started figuring out, "Oh, what do I wanna do?" I was like, "I
mhm,
wanna do something in business." Like, I kind of it wasn't really the thought of, like, "Oh, I wanna follow my mom's path," but it was very much a sense of, I know that I have a lot of impact and that there's so many people out there that I could help, and
mhm,
so that really made me think, like, I don't know what at that time, I was like, "I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I know it's gonna be big.
mhm,
Whatever I do, it's gonna be powerful, and it's gonna help a lot of people." And
mhm,
so then I thought, well, you don't really need to go to college to be in business because you can start at any place as an entrepreneur. And
mhm,
so that was kind of where I was like, I'm just gonna do individual learning, like learning on my own and not go to college.
mhm.
I just
I
was
did
like,
the same thing. I dropped out after 3 years,
"What'd you major in?"
physics, and I switched to economics. Then I dropped out.
I enrolled and then never went. I was like, well, because COVID, like if you were in high school during COVID,
Oh,
you
yeah.
get you get free college in Maine, which is where I'm from.
Oh, wow.
And so I was gonna go, but then it
Mhm,
was very much that thought of like, I know I don't need to go. Like, I could go just to get the degree because that's
mhm.
what everyone else wants me to do. But I
Right.
very much thought like, but I don't want to. I really don't want to be back in a traditional school
Mhm,
setting, and it's like I could do it online, but then trying to balance, like, I just
mhm.
like if Imma do that, Imma take courses on what I wanna do, not what the teacher in the school wants me to learn.
I love it. I love it. You're definitely a second child. I love it. That's the thinking that I like.
Thank you. Yeah,
Mm.
I feel like almost weird, it feels like you've almost interviewed me part
I end up doing that because I've been recruiting for so long that I see things and I'm like, "Wait a minute, this girl is special."
Aw.
If I don't feel you're special, I don't do it.
I know I have yet to do someone else interviewing me. And I've had a couple where I talked to like with the person like being on, but I just had one like I was gonna do but with the hurricane and everything they ended up having to cancel. And so I know not right now it's not really a great time for kind of that for some people cuz there's a lot going on. It hasn't affected me, but I feel like a lot of
Ever
people.
want to interview you, oh my god, let me
What?
know. If you ever want me to, like, officially interview you, just let me know, and I would love it. That'd be so fun.
Well, I don't even some see, that's where I get in my head, I'm like, "What would I even talk about?" Because I feel like I'm like, "Well, here's my issue." I think I'm not specialized in anything in the sense of, like, I had a business, failed, I'm stuck with a business loan, it was tragic, but I persevere and I continue on. So I'm like, "Oh, well, I don't have my own business technically." But then I'm like, "Well, I could talk about mindset because I feel like that's something I've really been good at." But then I'm like, "Well, I feel like a lot." It's that thing of but see, I had that thought before I started my podcast, and I did it anyways, so I just am like, "Just do it anyways," even though I have the, "Oh, what can I talk about?" Or
Well, the magic when you speak comes out, you don't hear it because 'cause you're used to it, and
Right.
that's why you wouldn't have to think of anything. I would probe you, and the listeners would be excited because you don't hear it, but we do. So your greatness comes out, you don't hear it.
Yeah, I know the guy training me on my new job was like, "You're very hard on yourself, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yes." 'Cause I did a daily reflection, I'm trying to, like, get back into reflections, and I wrote, "I don't feel like I did a good job today," and he's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I feel like you did great," and I'm like, "I don't know, I'm just so hard on myself."
Yeah, you don't see it. You were born with it, and you have it. When you have that it and you just born with it, you don't see it. But other people see it, and I'm sure you've heard it before. But that's what I would want to interview you about. I would ask you questions that you thought didn't have anything to do with anything, and then it will start coming out. Because you're speaking it. You're speaking my language. Most people don't speak my language. Even
That's
my age, they don't speak my language.
I feel like I'm like, "That's good though," because, like, I feel like too, I've always been more connected with people older than me, than
Mm,
my age, which, like, always throws me off because it's like, when you're this age, you always want to connect with people your own age, but
mhm,
then for me, it's like, I felt like so many people my age are just immature and, like, don't have similar passions or they're just they're going through, "I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna party," and it's like,
mhm,
"You do that, and that's fine, everyone lives their own life," but for me, it's like, that's not for me, I feel like I just have so much I want to accomplish that I'm just like I don't even think about that partying or, like, doing all this stuff, it's like, I'm more like, "How can I get to where I wanna be faster?" Like, "What can I do?" Because it's like
mhm. The
sorry, I'm
reason
right.
you feel like that is because there's so much in you. They might not have that much in them. That's why I call it greatness. It's just in you, and you just can't help but to get it out and to do something with it. So you're definitely a powerful, powerful woman.
Thank you. I'll
You're
tell you
welcome.
guys, I don't know if I've shared it on here, but I tell people, I'm like, "This is my delusional thinking," but I tell myself it's gonna happen. But my little game plan, my little five-year plan, um, I'm 21 now. My plan was by 23, I'm gonna be a millionaire. And then
Mhm,
from 23 to 25, I'm gonna travel the world,
mhm,
and I'm gonna build my businesses and everything, and then 25, I wanna already have had my own house and
mhm,
have my first kid. So that's, like, the next 4
mhm,
years that I've just told myself, I'm like, "By 23, you're gonna be a millionaire." And I've had someone ask me, "Well, just 1?" And I said, "No, at least 1,000,000."
mhm,
That could be 10,000,000, that could be 15,000,000. I'm saying I
mhm,
at least have to have 1,000,000
That's
by
right.
23.
Hmm. And I believe you're going to do it. And no degree could have got you there. So,
You know, that actually, if I had started now, I would be graduating college by 23
for what?
or an associate's degree,
God.
which I'm just like, it's not. That's where I struggle too. It's because I'm like, everyone has their own thing, but for me, I'm just like, to me, with how much I expect for myself, I'm like, but that to me is not a lot. I'm like, in 2 years from now, I could actually become a millionaire. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Like, I'm just like, I go through a phase where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm gonna figure out. And then I'm like, but it's gonna happen. I know it's gonna happen. I know right now I don't know how, but it's gonna happen.
Have you ever thought about being a coach now or in the future? A life coach?
I've thought about it, then it gets to those, "Oh, but I'm not qualified enough," or and then that's
Mm,
why I'm like, "Why?" I have so many like, I've worked through a lot of them, but I still have certain limiting beliefs like that where I think, "Oh, I'm too young," or I don't know enough," or you know what I mean? And it's
mm.
just like, "Okay, but you just said you know how to automate your own podcast. You could literally teach how to do
Yeah, yeah.
that."
You're way ahead of the curve, even with what you don't know.
Right. I know we're kind of nearing the end, so I know I've kind of talked quite a bit, and I appreciate that because I feel like sometimes I'm just like so much balled up, and I'm like, oh, I want to share this because it's like I feel like I have so many dreams and just things in
Well,
life.
it's perfect because what we ended up doing is what I do, and it's what you do. So it worked out.
I love that. I love it. So I know we're kind of nearing the end, and I wanted to kind of give you the last, well, what's about to be 50 minutes. So last 5 or so minutes to kind of just share whatever is on your mind.
Mhm.
Things maybe you want to touch more on. I know you said you do coaching. If you want to talk a little more about that, just allowing you the space to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
I would like for anyone that hears this podcast to know one thing. If you're looking for another job, if you're unhappy on your job, if you feel stagnant, if you want to get back into the workforce, any of those life changes, talk to me. It's free. I want that initial consultation, not to get you to buy my services or to work with me, but I want to do it so that I can help you understand what it's going to take in 2024, 2025 with technology, with algorithms, with automation. We cannot do job search the same. Your digital presence is the resume. Don't worry about that sheet of paper. That's gone. And so my name is Rashida Houston. Just Google my name and you'll get directly to me. That's it.
Wow. I was gonna say I'm like I know who my new best friend is. I love it. I feel like our energy matches so much.
It does. That's why I asked you all those questions.
I know, and it's too, it's like not in a weird way, but it feels like how I feel like with my mom as well, because me and my mom are also like so much alike, and it's well, sometimes too. I told my stepdad yesterday, I was like, do you ever feel like it just sounds like me and my mom are like a married couple just bickering because sometimes me and my mom are just like back and forth, and I tell her I'm
Mhm.
like, because sometimes she gets a little crabby, and I'm like, don't be sassy with me.
I'm the same way with my mom.
I'm like, I tell her, but we're just so comfortable with each other. It's like,
That's beautiful.
and I love that you have that relationship with your mom. Are
Oh,
you like the same with your dad, or?
he's passed, but we were just alike. Like I'm like a female version of him, so we didn't get along.
Oh, I I don't have a good relationship with my dad. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I always say I tell my stepdad I'm like, you're my real dad. And if my dad
Oh,
sees this, I will feel bad. But
oh. Well, we have that in common too, because me and my dad's relationship was horrible, which that'll be in my book coming out soon.
oh, see, you didn't talk about the book. Talk about the book.
We have to do that separate because that's a
Oh,
whole nother
okay.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna be
Well, we'll
like,
have to do that then. You'll have to do a deep dive on that.
"Oh, yeah, yeah,
Is
that's."
that gonna be kind of like an autobiography or
Oh, yes.
Ooh.
And you're gonna be like,
I feel like I should write one day. I feel like mine would be like 10 books worth. Just now, my life now would just be like 10 books.
"I'll make sure you're the first to, uh, put my book out." Like, you'll be the first to,
Ooh.
yeah.
Do you have like an estimate of when you think that's gonna be coming? Is that gonna be like next year or
First of the year, and it's all poetry. Just telling my life story through poetry.
I love that. Poetry is so good. If
Mhm.
it's written correctly.
Mhm, mhm. Do
Because
you
like
I was about to oh, I don't want you to forget what you was about to say.
no, no, you're good. No, we're both like, wait, who goes I I was gonna say that I yeah, I that was again why I loved English because it's like you getting to learn like how to write poetry and kind of how to convey emotions through poetry. Like
Mm,
sometimes if it's not worded in a way or sometimes people are just more focused on like rhyming and it's like that doesn't matter as much as more about what you're conveying and like kind of what the reader's going through as they're reading it. It's like kind of allowing space for
mhm.
different thoughts like, "Oh, okay, like maybe this is happening." And you know what I mean?
That's true. Do you like Eminem at all? Oh,
Eminem.
you're too young. You're too
No, I
young.
I used to have Eminem on my iPod Touch.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yes.
Not the name of the song, but my 13-year-old daughter, heard my poetry and said that it reminded her of Eminem, one of his songs.
Oh, you see, I haven't listened as much to his newer stuff because, um, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like artists is like it's not the same. I'm very much in nostalgia of like, oh, because like I said, I used to listen to him and then like OG Taylor Swift like when I was younger. So I feel like it's still good. There's some songs
Mhm.
that I've heard here and there. I'm like, oh, okay, but like I'm like, but it's not OG. Like not the OG Slim
Mhm.
Shady.
Yeah, yeah. That's where what I like.
Yeah. Like the one I forget what the song was. The one where he talks about his daughter. When
Yeah, I don't remember
the
I
one
don't
he's like, "I know you miss your mom." That one? You know what I'm talking about?
I barely remember. I just remember he talked about his daughter. That's all that I remember.
Yeah, and then she's grown up and I think she like just got married and I'm like,
No.
yeah, it makes you know what? Don't even say nothing. I'm gonna say it. It makes me feel old.
Oh, shit.
So I was like, don't say
Oh.
because I well some things too, but I look at it as like I see the younger generations, like I think it's called Gen Alpha, and I worry for them
Oh, yeah.
very much because for
That
me, it's like, oh, everyone's like, oh, you're young and like you don't get it. But I'm like, I was born at the spot where iPhones and stuff were just kind of starting and so it's like yes, I was born when phones were coming like getting more relevant and like
mhm,
but the thing to it for me is that like I didn't even have a phone until I was like 10 or 11
mhm,
and I still was very much like having to learn in ways like how to be a normal kid and like play by yourself and now these kids I swear are just like coming out of the womb with an iPad
yeah,
like they're
yeah.
it's scary, and then hearing how they talk, their language, because
Mhm.
I call it brain rot language,
Ooh,
because that's how they talk, they say things like "skibbity" and just, like, weird things where I'm like, "I worry for you."
wow. So you're Gen Z, right?
Yes.
Okay, Gen Z, okay.
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I know it's crazy to think, like, how much has happened, and it's like, I think I couldn't even ask someone who's part of this newer generation, "Oh, do you know what, I forget what they're called, but, like, the box TVs where they were, like, shaped like a box, and it had, like, the huge, like, back like this.
Mhm.
I had one of those when
Oh,
I was younger, and it had the VHS tapes,
yeah.
and
Ooh.
I'm like, none of these kids would even know what I'm talking about. They're like, "My 4K 40-inch TV screen," and I'm like, "No."
They
I
have
mean, I know I'm still young, but I grew up with that hunk of a box
mhm,
TV
that
with
was
thick
huge.
back.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the VHS tapes, I'm like, "You guys don't even know what VHS tapes are."
Or DVD.
Yeah, exactly. They're not gonna have to ever know what that is. They're
Yeah.
just like, "What? It comes programmed in my TV." I'm like, "It didn't always."
Mhm, exactly.
Well, I know we're at the hour mark, so we'll kinda wrap it up, but I know me and you could probably talk forever.
Exactly. I really enjoyed this.
I did too, and we definitely have to stay in touch. You have to send me your book when it comes out.
I will.
Or are you thinking of doing like because I know some people give people early access so they can kind of get people to review it and see if there needs to be any tweaks. If you
Yeah,
were open to that, I would definitely be into that.
yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that because I don't
Yes.
think it's my first book, but I'll keep that in mind for sure. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight and spending some time with me and getting to know each other. Um, so I know you mentioned a little bit, but for those who wonder where they can find you, and I will have this link, but I just like people to verbally say it as well. What links, like where they can find you, what websites?
Peachtreecareers.com.
Awesome. And through there, is that where you said like they can do a consultation?
Yes, yes, they can do a free consultation. They'll see all of the steps that I went through. Each step is laid out, and the first one is free.
Awesome. And for the podcast, I know I mentioned in the beginning, but you can find us pretty much everywhere. The only thing I don't think I'm on is on TikTok. I've kind of talked a little bit how, when I kind of get settled into things, like I just started a new job, how I want to start posting clips on there. So I will be doing that. But right now we're on, yeah, Facebook, Instagram, X, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible. I mean everything. So you guys can find this there, and it's also, I think I went, yeah, sorry, my brain. um yeah, so right now we're only able to go live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So if you guys want to watch it live, for every episode, it's usually Mondays and Fridays. The times kind of vary on that, so I just say, yeah, they're Mondays and Fridays, so you guys can watch it live on there as well. And then for my personal stuff, you can find me on pretty much anything, just searching Smith Bailey, and on Instagram and TikTok, it's Sam B Daily Motivation. And yeah, that's about it. So I just want to thank you guys for coming on tonight and hanging out with us and giving us a chance to share some things in our lives with you and getting to know Rashida tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I will see you guys on Friday. Have a good night.
Good night.